So happy to be here. I'm Courtenay Lapovsky, and I was the editor of the book Jailbirds in Flight, and I'm here today with Marla, who is a very good friend of mine. We've been friends and colleagues off and on for we've been friends on all the time. For 15 years that we've worked in various...
let's be honest. Just kidding.
Heated rivalry.
Yeah.
So we're here today to talk about this book, Jailbirds in Flight, and thank you so much to Bigfoot Books and Brews and Stephen and Olivia for having us here. It's very exciting to be doing this talk. So the book we're talking about today is Jailbirds in Flight, everything you've wanted to know about enlightenment in prison, but we're afraid to ask. And the reason Marla and I are here talking about it today is because the author, Nicole Daedone, is currently incarcerated. She's been incarcerated for 10 months, and she wrote this book during her first 6 months of incarceration. So it was a very real time as it was happening writing. It wasn't like she wrote about it after the fact. She was in there. As soon as she got in there, she started to write, and it formed into this book. Mm-hmm. So, and then Marla has anybody read the book so far? I know you've read it. You've read part of it. You've started it.
I've only seen the documentary.
Okay.
Not on that particular,
about that.
I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. So Jill.
Background story.
So this, when you read it, we'll read. It might come up tonight a little bit when we talk about it and read it. And I know a lot of the people online have read it, but one of the things that Nicole Daedone talks about is the prison monastery and turning prisons to monasteries. And Marla was a integral part of the start of that. Back in California during COVID, she was the program manager of the program that Unconditional Freedom, which is a nonprofit. Nicole is the visionary of where she taught yoga and meditation inside of the Mendocino County Jail and started up a garden program and worked with the prison residents there every day, like 5 days a week or something.
Oh gosh, I can't even fully remember now, but when the garden was in full bloom, we were making good use of getting them out into nature, getting their hands in the earth.
Yeah, so Marla is here with us today too. All right, well, I thought we would start today with just open it up with the opening of the book and Nicole arriving in prison. Okay. The beginning, the unfuckwithable phase. Oh, and as we do this, we're going to read sections. We're going to talk about it. We're going to ask you all to talk about it. The people online are going to ask questions or discuss whatever you guys want. I know if you have read it or haven't read it, if you have questions, whatever you guys want to pop in with is how I thought we would do this tonight.
Yeah, we're really wanting to have it be interactive, and so less about us just presenting the work and more about like, what do you think and how does it land for you?
Okay, the beginning, the unfuckwithable phase. The first day being federally incarcerated felt like a stage dive. Stripped of everything, all I have now has been given to me, from the too tight government-issued bra to the roll of toilet paper gifted by my prison patron Saint Luciana. The women offer small mercies to the new arrivals, Rach and me. Commissary won't reopen for a week, so even if we had money on our books, we still wouldn't be able to buy shampoo, a toothbrush, or the insulated sippy cups everyone uses for water. By the time Rachel and I finally arrived to the prison after a day of holding cells and transport, we were thirsty. Mariela, extradited from Guatemala, offered her styrofoam cup of murky liquid. We hesitated. She caught our look. No, water with a little apple juice, she smiled. It's like that here. Your instinct is to assume the worst, and then something kind, almost magical, cuts through. It's astonishing how few words can dismantle an entire life. Before the judge even finished her order, the marshals had stepped forward, cuffs ready. I turned to the gallery, rows of friends eyed wise. It'll be okay, I mouthed. 15 years building the business, the community, the practice I was eventually indicted for. It had been years living under federal investigation, months of motions, and weeks of trial, all in an inextricable flood that finally gathered enough force to dislodge me from my seat, earrings and necklace removed, and whisk me through a hidden door in the courtroom wall into the underworld. If the prosecutors get their way, this is the beginning of my next 20 years. I'm 57. The door sealed behind us with a vacuumed sigh. The most dramatic moment of my life was, for the officers, just another Tuesday. Rachel, my co-defendant, my friend, looked at me. We were certainly somewhere new. They placed us in a stainless steel holding cell. Eventually, we'd be put on a bus, but for now, we sat filling out forms. Even here, relieved of our freedom, there was paperwork. Then intake began, the ritual undoing. We undressed, stood naked, bent over, and coughed on command. Our courtroom clothes replaced by federally issued beige. My new underwear rose to my breasts, the bra slid up over them. The tan canvas pants could fit a linebacker, their cuffs swallowing the boat shoes that were a size too small for me, while Rachel's shoes were a size too large for her. We looked like two children playing dress-up in our gangster father's closets. The absurdity made me laugh. It was funny, but also the point. Identity, dignity, free will, all stripped and replaced. We were marched again and sat on another steel bench, still swimming in our oversized uniforms. Across from us sat a woman who wore hers like silk, black hair to her waist, Selma Hayek eyes, the body of a gazelle. She sat as if holding court. My name is Mariela, Mari, she said. I'm Nicole. This is Rachel, I said, nodding towards Rach. You just arrived? Yes. You live here? I wasn't sure what the right verb was. Yes, she said, neither proud nor ashamed. At MDC, they'll probably bus us over around 5. I leaned forward, trying to get a sense of where we were headed. Is there a chapel? She tilted her head. Well, kind of. A gym? I'd read that exercise was the only way to avoid collapsing into despair. Kind of, she smiled. Do you work? Do people have jobs? I was already imagining a library, maybe a teaching post. I clean the toilets. That's full time? She laughed, about an hour a day. My mind skimmed every prison blog I'd read. Do you get enough fiber? This time she was really laughing. You'll figure it out. It didn't feel like the most auspicious moment of my life. I'd just been found guilty after a 5-week trial, but I'd vowed not to get disheartened, to find the perfection inside the mess. My capacity, let's just say, was being stretched. Still, Mari felt like a wind from somewhere sane, a trickster angel reminding me, things are not as they appear. So that's the opening of her first day in prison. And when Marla and I were talking today, she said, let's start with that. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, Marla, if you wanted to say anything
Well,
about
it's
it.
just not your everyday kind of experience. And so I think that's part of what's so interesting about this book is a woman who has been kind of on a quest for women's liberation her whole life and then finds herself incarcerated. And yeah, I just felt like it's a good place to start for us to kind of start thinking about just imagining the scene, setting up the whole story.
So this is after she's been convicted but hasn't been sentenced yet? Or is this when at what part of the phase is this?
She was
Repeat the question.
yeah, so what's her name again? Marianne. Marianne asked if she had been, if this was before or after her sentencing. This was before her sentencing, after her conviction.
Okay.
So, but she was immediately remanded and taken into a detention center to be held. So it was her first day. And what it's a scene that most of us aren't familiar with.
Or privy to.
Yeah. And we have TV and we have movies and we have ideas of what it might be like. But throughout this whole book, Nicole really just shows it through human eyes, through the eyes of what's actually happening to a woman stepping inside of a prison and all of the things that you go through, from being scared of what's being handed to you to learning to trust a stranger you've never met inside of a facility you've never been inside of before. And that line that she says that things are not always as they appear, it's just a lesson in life. Like, how often do we look at someone or something and take it to mean something? And really, if you look underneath of it, if you see inside of it, beyond whatever the layers are on top of it, there's something else happening. So if anybody else wants to hop in with a question or a thought, or if you're in the room, you can go ahead and share. And if you're online, you can raise your hand, and if Leah will let you off of mute.
occurs to me that it occurs to me that in the opening excerpt, there are automatically two lines of inquiry that are established. There's one, of course, about the particularities of Nicole's case, the justice or injustice of it all, which I'm sure is something that is followed through in the book. But then there's also the case of the sort of subtle degradations that happen in prison, period. And it raises like bigger questions, regardless of if the reader comes into this believing that Nicole is guilty or not of whatever she's accused of. It's like, is prison actually a corrective institution? Why is it called the Department of Corrections? Does it actually correct anything, or does it simply humiliate? So there's some like bigger questions to me about prison abolition, in addition to the through line of the particularities of her story. Mm-hmm. And I thought she did a good job establishing that.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else wanna? Oh, we got Rachel Kane.
Yeah, I loved the intro and wondered what it was like for you, Courtenay, editing the book, and you, Marla, reading the book, and with your experience of the programming firsthand, what your thoughts or experiences were of freedom inside of confinement.
Well, it's definitely something that's shown throughout. And what you mentioned, Mike, about the going, what is prison, and is it humiliation? Is it actually
Correcting anything, or is it just meant to, you did a bad thing, or we decided you did a bad thing? You might not have done a bad thing. Some people have, some people are there wrongfully, and therefore you are going to spend this time and you are going to be degraded and humiliated and stripped of everything that you once knew. And then what do you do with that? What do you do in that circumstance? And that's really what Nicole writes about in this book. That's what her program, the Prison Monastery, another book she has written, her idea is, what if you turn prisons into monasteries? And so this is just, what if you turn towards everything that you would otherwise turn away from? What if you, instead of being like, I'm in this situation and it's terrible, can you find the beauty inside of it? Can you find your own freedom inside of it? So if you're stripped of all of your clothes and given something that is not attractive and not comfortable and doesn't even fit you right, what is the beauty inside of that? How are you free? How are you free even with that? Even then, yeah.
And that's really what, the whole nonprofit Unconditional Freedom, which she talks about in here. And this whole book is just her facing every single thing that happens and showing others that it's possible to do this and to find freedom inside of any condition, and if you want to say.
Yeah, for me, it's just honestly teaching yoga in the largest women's prison in the country was probably one of the biggest honors of my life, where, a lot of times I'll tell people, oh, I got to teach yoga, whatever, and they're like, oh, you did such a good thing. And it's like, I felt like I received so much from the women, and like it shifted my paradigm from like I'm coming in and I'm doing something to like I'm there practicing this ancient, beautiful practice right alongside of all of the women. And it I don't know if I'm answering the question, but Rachel Kane, like the kind of peeling back of the
Curtain?
Yeah, peeling back
inside.
like the different layers and being able to see behind the curtain into like what someone matriculating into prison goes through had me think more. I think about the women that practiced yoga with me inside almost every day, and then it's like, wow, they all had to go through this, but Nicole's going through it with so much awareness and so much thoughtfulness, even times like making jokes, and like there's lightness in those moments of like, I'm sure, really difficult kind of portals that she's going through. So yeah.
Anybody else?
Question.
Go ahead.
So I read the whole book and it's freaking amazing. And I was just like, I'm amazed at how much resilience and beauty she finds in there when in like just a single room she stayed inside of. Um, and it had me often ask myself, like, oh, how would I do there, and what would that be like for me? And would I be able to find that much brilliance and beauty and connection in there? And so I just wanted to know, like, what your experience individually was like reading the book, um, and previously being connected to the unconditional freedom, nonprofit and Marla and editing Courtenay and kind of like what it was like in real time as you're reading it for the first time.
Well, editing it, so the way the book was basically written, Nicole arrived in prison and just started writing about her experiences as they were happening. And then, I've edited many of her books, and we knew it was going to turn into a book. We didn't know what the book was going to be. And then one day, something happened, and the arc of the book became clear. And it was already written. It was just how it was going to be edited, organized, and put together. And so I had read them as they were coming in each day. You might wonder what it's like to write a book from prison. You don't have your laptop, you don't have Google Docs, you can't send your things easily off to your editor, you can't then go back and edit them yourself. So Nicole would write, they have an email system, they have computers, I hear they look like they're from the 1980s. You get 1 hour at a time on the computer, and then you have to leave for an hour, and then you can come back an hour later. And so she just would write and send them out to people on the outside, and we saved all of them, and then slowly, once we knew what the book was going to be, put them together and edited them into the book, into this Jailbirds in Flight. And then, you can't, like I said, you don't have Google Docs. She can't put in her edits or comments. So we would send in sample books that she would then read and just email back notes through the email system or call with notes. And so it wasn't as real time as I'm used to on working on a book. You can't just ask a question and get the answer. What did you mean here? Could you expand on this one? And so, and there's some questions you're like, oh, I can't really ask this on a recorded line, or I can't really ask this on an email that's being, I don't know what it looks like inside of there. I've never been inside, and I have heard describe, but I don't describe the entire room. That's awkward to send in a thing that is going in and out and being reviewed. So each email she sends, not only does it get sent out, but then it gets reviewed, and then if we send something back, it also gets reviewed. So there's about a 2-hour lag time between email correspondence. So it's not the immediate text message. There isn't any of that. It's all taken away. And then when you send a book in, it takes about a week or something to get in there, and then. So it's just a very different. It was a new experience to do it. But I had read everything as they were coming in, and then working on it as an editor and seeing how to put it together and what to do with what. Each time I felt like I saw.
Somebody has something to say.
Got a little music in here for a moment. Just something new would pop out to me every single time. So it's like, yes, there's different eyes you can look at it with. You can look at it like as an editor, and does this sentence make sense? And do I need more information here? Or you can just kind of be taken by it. And so each time I read it or would pick it up to edit it, I would see something different, and something else would kind of catch my attention and catch my eye. But overall, it's just, it really impacted me and how I am in my life. And if I don't like something, I can just change it so much easier. I can, if I don't like the food served to me somewhere, I can go and get food somewhere else. Mm-hmm. There's not that option there. And it's like, oh, wow, how much of my life is dictated by my preferences? What if I don't have those preferences? What if that is how much can I retreat into comfort in my life? And so those were kind of the questions that come up for me around some of the questions that come up for me around the book is like, oh, what are the escapes that I have in my life? And what if I took those escapes away? And seeing how Nicole's practice in prison was to not complain about what she doesn't have and not to fight against what she doesn't have, but to really be inside of it, of where she is, and then see the beauty there. And then that's where the whole idea of unconditional freedom, you can be anywhere and you can be free. You can be inside of a federal detention center in a dorm. She lives in a dorm of 40 women, no private rooms. It's just one room of women with, I think, one bathroom that has a door, one toilet that has a door that locks. Like, there's not a lot of privacy, a lot of rules, different, so, and what do you do there? And she can still find beauty inside of that. And so it has me look at the world in a different way. Where can I see beauty? What do I notice? And I walk around in my life differently now than I did. Like, I noticed the day the flowers all bloomed in New York City. For some reason in New York it happened, all the trees bloom on the same day, like this. Other places, like a couple buds pop up. But I've always been like, wait, did I miss that? And this year I was like, they're not bloomed in the morning, and they did bloom by the time I walked home from work. And my eyes were just open to a different level of what can I see around me? Yes, I'm in Harlem and it's a dirty city, but where is the beauty? Can I find it everywhere that it exists? So that's some of how it's impacted me, reading it
So how
and
long
editing
was
it.
the editing process for this book compared to like other books that you do?
It was fast.
Just repeat the question.
How long was the editing process? From the moment we knew Nicole knew exactly what the arc was and what she wanted the book to be, it was about 2.5 months later that it was available to purchase.
And how long has she been prior to, like, because you said she was sending you stuff before she really realized what the arc would be, I guess.
I mean, she probably decided some pieces came in after that. So even in those 2.5 months we knew which direction we were going, pieces still came in. So the whole 6 months, it was her writing and us editing, and then a book was ready. Maybe it was June 6th to December 25th. So it was like 6.5 months of her being in, and the book came out. So it was pretty fast.
And then she was just sentenced this week.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, when did the book actually come out?
The book came out in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 3 months later, so is there going to be any kind of like an epilogue or?
Yes, there's another book. It'll come out at some point. Yeah, it's not done yet, editing yet, but yes, and yeah,
More books coming.
more books coming. Yes.
And I'll just say, I cried a lot of the way through the book. I haven't really read a book like that, and I want to say like that in the sense of, like, I think I read it in 4 days, which is really fast for me, who's not a really, like, big, fast reader. And I just kind of, I sobbed my way through a lot of parts, but not because, like, I felt sad, more because of the poignant moments. Like, there's this one moment in the book, I don't know if I told you this, but it really made me sob, where she's describing her mother and how she sees her mother in a different way, because she used to, like, wake her mom up in the night, and her mom was a single mom and, would be working and all the things, and she'd wake her up in the night to read her poetry to her. And I just thought, like, now I'm going to still cry, but, like, you see your parents how you see them as you're growing up, and they're just whatever, and then life goes on and things unfold and you wind up in federal prison, and then you see the beauty of your mother and, like, how, regardless of how much sleep she needed, she didn't mind listening to your poetry in the middle of the night as, like, a teenager. So anyway, just, like, those things where you are like, Nyx has always been a writer, and it's always just kind of flowed out of her. But then to kind of have that little window into her soul as, like, a teenage writer, anyway, just one of the moments that just got me. So anyway, we'll keep going.
Okay, I think we'll do the meditation one next.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that Nicole does, she's a practitioner, she meditates, and so she got in there and started her practice and meditated and did yoga and did her writing and all of the things that she always did. She did even more. That's what you do when you're in that, you're like, and she writes a little bit about it's ingrained in her, and thank goodness it was ingrained in her, because otherwise everything is stripped away, and what do? So many people fall back and collapse. And she writes about some of the women in prison who don't get out of bed. They just stay in bed all day long. There's nothing to do there. You don't have to do anything. There's genuinely you
Can't go outside.
You can't go outside. There's no outside where she is. So you could just stay in your bed all day, I guess, get up and get food. And so so one of the things that she started doing there, they started to walk. There's a gym with a track or something. I don't remember. It's something like 72 laps around is a mile. And they'll walk like miles a day. And so one day she invited the other women to join. Do you guys want to come? I don't know. She yells it out in the dorm room, which was a big thing because it was not something she had done before. And she said, 5:30 at the track. And then women got up and they started to walk. And these were women that were like, I can't walk anymore. My knees, my back, my body. I haven't done anything because they're just inside. And so she started these evening walks in the gym, and she started teaching meditation to the women. At first they were like, what are you doing? And then they had more and more questions. And so she started teaching the practices that she does. And so
the Buddhist meditation.
So I'll read a section about that.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't find it now.
Retreat one?
No, the skeleton key, this one. Okay. This is called the skeleton key. It was Monday, meditation class. I started with a story I'd heard from a Tibetan monk. When he was young, he saw some kids throwing rocks at a puppy, beating it until it died. From that time on, he used that ache in the center of his heart, the unbearable empathy he felt, as his source of compassion. It felt timely to talk about something more heart-oriented after they'd been so sweet to me for my birthday the day before. I mentioned the beauty I'd found at MDC, and Carla was not having it. In prison, things are divided along race lines, and it's hard to cross them. If you're white, you're assumed naive, maybe oblivious. If you disagree, you're ignorant, not informed. It can feel like sexism, being brushed off and dismissed. Here, the story goes, you don't know pain or the streets. Sometimes women would talk to me as if I didn't know what it was like to be in prison. I'd joke, oh, because my bunk is somehow more like the Ritz? Because my fungal rash and constant indigestion are fancier than yours? Carla started in on her argument, leaning on the credentials of someone who'd been locked up more years than she'd been free. You have no idea. What you call beautiful, I call bullshit. She'd been a young kid from Cuba when she made her first trip to juvie at 13. Then bounced through every kind of facility they could ship a girl to. By the time she was 35, she'd lived in more institutions than homes, and she wore that history like a badge she dared anyone to question. You telling me your story, I said, that was beautiful. That wouldn't have happened on the outside. She cocked her head, granting me her listening. Okay, but you have no idea what happens in here, she said, like a coach had tapped her shoulder to keep fighting. You think I don't know about the ops? I said, and a few women laughed at the 58-year-old white lady using the prison shorthand for opponents. You think I don't see the arguments, the bullying? You think I appreciate you because I'm duped? It's the opposite. I pay attention to everything. That's how I see beneath the drama to the heart that's still alive. I'm going to keep saying it. Nothing is really the way it seems. She conceded the point, then went for the knockout. Okay, but you've never been to solitary. People lose their minds in SHU. It's the solitary housing unit, SHU. One crazy dude ate a light bulb. Ate it. First time they threw me in SHU was juvie. I was 13, locked in a box, didn't even know English yet. Years later, I spent 5 years straight in the hole. People smear blood and shit and howl like dogs. People crack. But it didn't get you, did it? I asked. She looked around, suddenly skittish. Nah, it didn't. Because there's something inside you that refused to go down. And then you found something, right? She eyed me like I was running a scam, then nodded. It's not so different from deep meditation retreat, I said. Some people go alone into mountain caves for years. Nothing but themselves in silence. Some never make it back. Encountering yourself is risky. It's the thing most people fear. But you looked yourself in the eye. Another slow nod. Those hermits chose it on purpose. In some ways, SHU is easier by comparison. Someone feeds you. There are others just like you on the other side of the wall. There's a toilet. And when scientists went looking for the happiest people, turns out those meditators top the charts. What looks like crazy from a distance can be a kind of hard-won clarity. Carla's not someone who goes down easy. She shook her head but didn't push back. I told the women in the class that soon we'd play a concealed rules game, the kind where you don't know the rules until you start playing. Nevaeh called out, "Like this place." "Exactly," I said. Desiree chimed in that she was in solitary for 2 years and that she preferred it. She has the softness of Janet Jackson in Poetic Justice. I've told her that and asked if she'd seen the movie. She laughed at me and said, "Of course, Tupac's in it." And with 2 years in solitary, you found that secret too, right? You learned how to be fearless without getting hard. That's the name of the game. I pointed to the truth the women knew but hadn't put in words. Once you truly encounter yourself, you are fearless. Once you see that you're not the finite person you thought you were, you rest in something softer. The conversation in the class opened. Suddenly, meditation wasn't so theoretical anymore. It wasn't a course you take to get a first step point. It wasn't something you do to be good. It wasn't something you talk to your parents about to prove you're doing something with your time in here, even though you don't really meditate except on Mondays and Thursdays. Now it was real, applicable, and there was a secret. There was something some of these women knew that made them not immune to the conditions, but free inside of them. So that chapter is called Skeleton Key. And then we're going to show a little video, Hisham, where this is a woman who was inside of MDC with Nicole and Rachel, and she is now on the outside, and she was on a podcast, and she talked about her experiences in her meditation class. I thought we could show it today.
There's 2 white women that have a high-profile case that came in. They're Buddhists, so they taught us how to meditate. So that was one of the most profound experience that I learned throughout my whole bid this time, because it taught me how to block out the noise and live in the moment. And live in the moment, it centered myself. So when centering myself, it's giving me that connection with my higher power. So I got that connection, and I can just drown out anything. When I say it's freezing cold in there, it's like the Arctic.
So I want to complain all year round.
Yeah, so it's like and then they don't give us no extra blankets. So you got them thin little homeless looking blankets, and you just freezing. So the ladies, Nicole Daedone, Rachel Sherwitz, they came in, and they all, throughout the meditation, they gave us a practice on learning how to warm your body up, so we could overcome any obstacle that faced us. Like, we overcame being cold. We overcame the noise, learning how to, just be one with yourself. So, like I said, like, I'm grateful for meeting them.
Right.
And she wrote a book, and the book is called Jailbirds in Flight. I am one of the main characters in this book. But this book talks about her experience. We did things like Loving Tree. So a loving tree is, I'm going to focus on you, Derek, and we're going to put you in the middle, and we're just going to put positive energy into you, speak words of affirmations, words of encouragement to let you know, like, you're not in this by yourself. We're in this together. So once she started doing these classes and helping us to overcome, it changed the trajectory. It changed the energy in the room. Because when I first got there, the energy was rowdy. Like, it's New York, and here it is. I'm a Southerner.
Right.
Get your copy of Jailbirds in Flight. It's on Amazon. It's a really good book. It talks about how you can overcome being unconditionally free. Unconditionally free meaning being free in all aspects.
That's dope. Who is the author?
The author, her name is Nicole Daedone.
Yeah, so I just thought we'd share that because it, she talks about exactly the thing that Nicole wrote about. They didn't talk about this, that she's out and Nicole is in, but that's what she taught these women. It's like this. It's a practice she was talking about called tumo. It's a Tibetan Buddhist practice that has it be that your body. You do a certain breathing technique in different holes, and you get warmer. And so it was very cold inside MDC in the summer with a lot of air conditioning, and so she taught the women how to heat up.
Can you say a little bit about like how? Can you say a little bit about how the women gave permission for their stories to be included in the book, and then like the proceeds from the sales of the book going back to the women?
Yeah. So as the book was turning into a book, some of the women wanted to be in it, and they wanted their stories to be told. There a lot of times, people are incarcerated and they have a number that they're known by, their BOP number, and it's a seven digit something. It's and that's who they are, and they're called by their last name, and they went into prison, and maybe there was some headline about them going in, and there is a story, this is who this person is, and it's very rare that someone inside a prison gets to actually share their story, who they are, what's real about them. And, sometimes we get attached to the story the world tells of us, or it's the only thing we know. And so, Nicole really got to know some of these women in her time there. And, she's still getting to know them. And as they open up and they share, and she provides this environment where you can actually, she'll listen to she doesn't put any label on people. It's not, you are this, and so that is what I will know you, and I will stay away from you because I heard you did this thing. It's like, no, she looks for the thing inside of everybody. And so some of the women asked to have their, it was all by consent. If you wanted to be in the book, your story was available, then you could be in
Submit a waiver.
Yeah, you could be in the book, and your story could be shared. And so those stories, those ones we would send back via the email system, and the women would read them and send back any notes and edits. So they had a very hands-on process to make sure, both we got rid of identifying details, so it didn't impact anything about their case or their families or anything like that. And they got to have that say. They got to pick their own names. They have pseudonyms. Yeah, they have pseudonyms in the books. They pick their own names, and then they said, they got to say, no, that's not how it happened. This is how it happened. And so it's really their story. And so, which just doesn't happen often. Then you're inside of a prison and you get to share who you actually are. So yes, some women asked to be in the book, and so they're in the book. The next book, I think, will have even more stories of more women. And then the proceeds of the book and the copyright of the book Nicole gave all of that to a trust called the Jailbirds in Flight Trust. And so all of the money from the book goes to the trust, and the trust splits the money up between Unconditional Freedom, the nonprofit Marla was talking about, and the women inside of MDC who are in the book. And so that's where it goes.
Yeah, and I just want to add that in addition to being featured in the book, some of the women have had videos made about them. Like there's this one from a woman that you'll read about in the book called Royal. And yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful things about Nicole and the way that she works with women and the way that Rachel works with women is like reflecting the beauty of themselves back to them. And I feel like I've grown up in a very kind of privileged way with adoring parents and a lot of love, and not everybody's grown up that way. Particularly what I make up is people in federal prison don't always grow up that way. And so having her reflecting the goodness back to them inside of them, and then creating a beautiful kind of video blog about their lives. Some of them you'll be able to see on, is it the Soulmaker Press?
Jailbirdsandflight.com. It's a
Okay.
website for the book, and there's these videos and stories of the women.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Beautiful videos and songs.
Yeah. Anybody else? Questions, comments, thoughts, how you were impacted? So I think we might get a video.
Oh, cool.
There are women who define what it means to love our kind. They don't crown themselves with praise, but leave a blessing in their wake. They call her royal, truth made kind. She walks a path she didn't design. When she says, baby, low and slow, the room remembers what it knows. Not all power's dressed in gold, not all wisdom's loud and bold. Some of it hums day by day, teaching us a steadier way. They say God made man, and yes, that's true, but royal makes men, hallelujah too. From dust to bone, from lost to true, they say God made man, royal makes men too. She raised the boys to something whole, raised the truth when lies took hold. She turned her sorrow into grace. She kept her name and kept her face. She don't feed fear, she feeds the fire. Calls your name and calls you higher. She lets you fall, then shows you how to stand back up with a cleaner vow. Not every lesson softly said, some just ring inside your head. Some come walking flesh and real, showing you what strength can feel. They say God made man, and yes, that's true, but royal makes men, hallelujah too. From bent back shame to walking through, they say God made man, royal makes men too. In the end, what made her reign? Not the silver she could claim, but every heart she built anew. Royal be thy name, the truth.
Still makes me cry, but it's just yeah, do you want to share more about Royal?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just the fact that a woman who's been incarcerated, maybe, and I don't know if that's the case with Royal, but like for a lot of her life, then is finally there's a reflection back to her of like the brilliance inside of her and the things that she's good at, and it just gets me every time when the women are being able to see themselves in a way that maybe no one's reflected back to them before.
We have a
Karen.
question from the audience here, on virtual audience.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you guys for speaking about the book. Beautiful. I read it when it first came out. Like, I couldn't put it down. It was so compelling. And one of the things I loved was just the way that Nicole shows like your circumstances don't matter at all, and these women who are in physical prison could be more free than many of the people outside, who, if I'm trapped with like my thoughts or my circumstances or something like that. And I loved how she's, I've followed her work for a long time, and she's always, you know, had that message, but reading it in the book, it was so clear, and just seeing the women and how strong and free she and they can be inside prison. And so I just had that comment. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that, but I just found it so beautiful.
I can read. Do you want to read? We can read this section. Do you want to read?
Sure, yeah. Oh, I gotta hold mine.
There's a chapter that speaks to this a little bit, so we'll read it.
I think it's a chapter you're on, prison women. I don't know that anyone, least of all these women, needs help. Maybe they do, but I can tell you this. The women in here are more capable than many of the women I knew on the outside. They're alive, hilarious, tuned in, fast. On Sunday, a minister came to preach for the dorm. A charismatic evangelical, the real kind, genuine, powerfully faithful, perfectly attuned to the room. She said prisons are her favorite place to preach because people actually receive the message. Not plastic Christianity, she said. I knew exactly what she meant. We got a survey for the First Step Act, a new federal law that lets people earn earlier release if they complete certain, quote, rehabilitation programs. With the possibility of home confinement in the balance, everyone rushed to fill it out, huddling over agree and disagree like it was the LSAT. One question asked something like, do you like criminals more than everyday civilians? At the risk, as if the risk is we'll fall in with the bad crowd and go shoot things up. I picked no response. What I wanted to say was, have you ever been to the Upper East Side, West LA, Marin County? In here, every woman has a story, rich, textured, outrageous, devastating, and the way they tell it is art. It's like the difference between American tomatoes and Italian ones. Minerals and sun so vivid you can feel the food humming in your cells. That's what the women in here are like, nutrient dense. For years, I called myself an introvert. I think I was just bored. I was listening to the same Muzak loop. Breakups, calories, 1,000 beige complaints. The air in those rooms felt recirculated, no wind, no weather. Then the trends turned to a wave of Instagram diagnoses, the pharmaceuticals to handle them, and the gospel of perpetual trauma. But these women have punched through the membrane into the wilds. Their lives have real stakes, actual harm, actual consequence to self and others. What's missing is the drone of self-pity. Instead, humility, humor, and genuine curiosity about how cause and effect actually works in a life. How do you circle that on a survey? Come on in. Yeah. I love these women. One of my closest friends, Topeka, is a pardoned ex-con. Nuance doesn't fit multiple choice. Honesty gets you in trouble. It registers first like a pressure change in the room, the tiniest lift under the heaviness, a sense of air where there shouldn't be any. I'm going to skip because it gets a little esoteric for a second. It's a controversial kind of freedom, especially when you're talking about women in prison. We're supposed to be broken, remorseful on cue, grateful for every scrap. But the flight I see here isn't denial of harm or consequence. It's the refusal to live as only the harm and the consequence. A woman comes back from a bad day at court, and somehow she's the one making everybody laugh over ramen that night. Another gets denied bail and spends the evening braiding hair, plotting someone's reentry plan like it's a group science project. They're not pretending it's okay. They're just not waiting for the outside to change before they let their insides move. These are the hearts I wish the world could see behind the headlines and indictments that try to proclaim who these women are. I don't mean these women float above the pain. They cry, pace the floor, rage into their pillows like anyone would. But over and over, I watch them choose movement over collapse. One more joke, one more favor, one more tiny act of generosity that keeps the air flowing. Their charges are fixed on paper. They're not. Maybe that's the deepest form of flight. When the world has you nailed to a story and you quietly, stubbornly refuse to stay pinned. Anyone want to share?
Parents are pinned. I don't know if they're. Or hello.
You can share. Did you want to say something, Dad?
Yeah, I wonder what the judge thinks about this book.
That
know-
I do not know. I did not ask her.
I know. I wonder if she is drawn to reading it, or if she is the ogre that I think that she is and scoffs at the idea of reading it. I don't know.
She claims to have read everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, I mean, one thing about Nicole is she doesn't hide from anything, and she doesn't, so it's like she wrote her story. She wrote the story of the women. She shared what was happening, because that, there's no like, it's a story to be told. It's a world it's something to be shared with the world. And so but yeah, not everybody wants to hear women's stories. Not everybody wants to hear that, and so we don't know.
Well, I think it's an interesting point that you bring up, because we have a habit or a procedure in society for being like, okay, this person did this thing, maybe it's the worst thing they've ever done in their life, and so now we're gonna put them in prison and throw away the key, or whatever we do with them. But all of us, like, if we're honest, could have probably been, gotten in big trouble or worse for things that we didn't get caught for. I mean, maybe I'm just talking about myself, but there's literally, like, Nicole is fine.
Let's explore that a little bit.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you. But Nicole is really, like, a genius at finding the beauty and the purpose inside of each person, and, like, calling it forth and saying, like, maybe this is the thing that the world knows about you, maybe this is the thing that the world knows about me, and that's not all I am, that's not all you are. And, like, I feel like it's a really important conversation, maybe, like, that we're having here tonight, but that there's so many parts. Like, there's darkness within me, there's darkness within, society, and all of these places that we just try and say, like, oh, that doesn't exist, or that's the only thing that exists. But as human beings, and that's part of why I love her so much as a writer and as a being, is, like, there's so many different shades that she's willing to be and also to talk about and appreciate in each person.
Yeah, I think, like Marla was saying, we all have things inside of us, and so much of society is like, yes, there are laws, but there's also, like, the codes and the rules of society and what you can do and what you can't do. And if you do a certain thing, even if it's nothing illegal, the world does not know how to be with it. And so if you look at Nicole's case, it's just, she said things that people that don't follow the rules of certain
societal codes or whatever.
And then what happens from there if you don't play along the game, and you're like, nope, you don't have to play that game. And without breaking a single law, without doing anything illegal, it just gets piled on top. But so many of us live a certain way just to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't want to end up in that place. I don't want
to. Or even just, like, appropriateness. Mm-hmm. Like, is it appropriate for me to take my shoes off right now? Probably not. That'd be a little weird if I'm up here presenting and I don't have shoes. But, like, all these, like, little things where, I was reading about some guy who just decided he's not going to wear shoes anymore, and, like, all the backlash that got. And I'm not saying, like, it's that interesting about shoes or whatever, but it's like, how am I fully Marla, and, like, all the pieces of me are expressed while still interacting and not causing harm and all of that within society. But, like, I feel like that's a big piece of what she is teaching women, is to like find the uniqueness inside of you and express it.
Right. And even in the case of, people that she's incarcerated with, and if they did commit a crime and they are guilty, it's like to also be a human being and to also be a woman and to also have your story and not just be a person who did something that, that you can have a whole identity. And even that is subversive in some way. You're supposed to feel bad for what you did and be punished for it. And it's like, and you're a human. And how can we treat everybody with dignity? Oh, can I read that last part of that one? If I can find it again. We didn't read the whole chapter of Prison Women, but the last part of it is, the last question on the survey was the easiest and somehow the trickiest. Do people who commit crimes deserve to be treated like everyone else? It seems they want you to answer no. But the answer is yes. Equal dignity isn't a reward for good behavior. It's the ground floor of being human. If you need a source for that, you don't have to crack open some obscure mystical or philosophical text. Just open the Bible to the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus says the quiet part out loud. Treat people with mercy. Turn toward them instead of away. Love your enemies. Do unto others as you'd want done unto you. The entire sermon is a blueprint for baseline dignity, especially for those the world says don't deserve it. And so often it's like those people, they did something, they're not deserving. It's fine that we treat them that way, but it's like, what? How do we? But that's how our, so much of society is built.
Yeah, we can still have consequence. We can still have all of the things. We can still have structure and order and law and all of it without being like, that's all you are now that this has happened or not happened or whatever. I think Michael wants to share something.
Looks like you might have some questions.
Oh, hi. I really appreciate those sections and those stories and what you're just talking about, how humanizing it is to actually hear details about somebody's lives, when so much of what goes on in prison we don't want to know about. It's a place like Marla mentioned, we want to not look at that part of life and lock people away and not have to deal with them. And then, for me here in Harlem, a lot of times I hear the expression beggars can't be choosers to describe people of, who have food insecurity and who just are living in the street. And I find that really insulting and dehumanizing. So I think what Nicole points out is that we all do have a choice, and we all are human beings regardless of our circumstances. And just here in Harlem, where there are a lot of people on the street in need, having needs, just to be able to meet them where they are, and say hello to them, and not just ignore them, but they're so used to being ignored. I just find that, it just, even though, I think Marla mentioned that, how the feeling of going into prison and teaching yoga, you gain more. I just feel like if I respond with kindness and love, even though I'm busy, I'm trying to get from here to there, and I can get someone a cup of coffee, or I can give them a spare change, or even if I don't have that, just say, hey, have a great day. I can't help you right now, but I'll catch you on the flip side. I benefit from that. And so much of what Nicole is talking about in her book speaks to that, like how to just be dignified in your own life and seeing everybody that way with dignity.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for sharing. It's beautiful. Stephen has a question.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. One of the things that I really appreciate about doing this book event now is it's April, which is historically known as Second Chance Month, what we're trying to call Fair Chance Month. And I think that's the equality piece that we're talking about. Like, everyone if we're being honest, none of us wants to be judged by the worst thing that we ever did in our life, and why are we doing that to people who that results in them going to prison? Like, it's really unjust. And I think what's beautiful about the book is Nicole does such a great job of telling the stories of these other women, because like we're talking about, like we lock people away because we don't want to see them. We want to be able to act like it's not happening and it's not affecting us. But what we really need to do is see people and hear their stories and let them touch our hearts, because these are our neighbors. And for many people in this country, they're family members, right? And so, yeah, I'm just really grateful that we're having this conversation in this month.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, maybe I should
There's a
read.
couple of
Is there any
comments in the chat. I don't know if
Leah, if there's
that's-
anything we should know, you can read
Oh
it out.
no, I just posted some links that are
Okay.
very wonderful resources.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. I can read the chapter, a little bit of the chapter about Royal, so you can hear one of the stories Stephen was just talking about, and the video that you watched is about this woman. So this is Royal's story. Royal is a storyteller, and she has stories. A full-on OG from the 80s and 90s. Out on the track, she talks the way some women pray, somewhat to me, mostly to God, the rest to herself. I always wanted to be a lawyer, she says. First grade, teacher go around the room, everybody saying nurse, ballerina. I said lawyer. I wanted that briefcase. I wanted to walk in the room and know more than everybody else. Her voice is matter of fact, like she's reciting a file she knows by heart. She tells me about Bedford, her first bit upstate. I studied law the whole time, state law, not this federal shit, she chuckles. It's not if we did it or not, it's if they can prove it. I was in my 20s, she goes on to explain, a kid, and one day I just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm not getting no job, I'm not going back to school, I'm gonna be a criminal. I made a conscious decision, I decided this is my life. It started small, she tells me, simple things, walking into banks and walking out with money that wasn't hers, paper games that felt like magic tricks. We all teach each other what we're good at, she says. One girl good with checks, one with IDs. I'd be amazed at the shit I could get away with. Her eyes gleam, remembering. It's like an orgasm. When you hit it, it's good, then it's gone and you want it again. She tells me about the crew she ran with, mostly men, always talking like they were the brains. They think they slick, think because they the ones with the gun or the suit on they in charge. She snorts. Half the time they run in on what a woman taught them. She glances at me. I ain't never let no man run my show. Not the ones in the street, not the ones in my bed. God said, I make men. And I said, me too. She says, tapping her chest. I carried them in my body 9 months. Fed them, wiped them nose, taught them how to walk in a room. Her hand goes instinctively to her belly, then drops. Everybody act like these men just appear or like these men made us. Nah, they come through us. I make men, my sons, my grandsons, my dudes. Whatever man I'm with, I'm making him. I build him up, talk life into him, show him how to move. He walking around in a body that came through a woman. He can't never be better than his maker. There's no brag in it. It's doctrine and honest evaluation. A lot of these girls shrink theyself so some man can feel big, she says. Not me. I make men. I've been like that my whole life. I don't care how many mistakes I made. I'm the best. Abandoned at birth. Her mother resurfaced after this most recent arrest, 60 years later, and told Royal she needed to eat salad instead of her daily meal of wings and ribs and potato salad from Shop Fast. Shame, regret, a long ledger of hard choices. Listening to her spill it out while we walk the track, I think of all the invisible women who have been making men their whole lives, the mothers and aunties and girlfriends who packed the lunches, wiped the faces, said the one sentence that shaped how a boy would see women for the next 40 years. We talk about the system like it fell out of the sky, some neutral machine, but every system was once a boy in a kitchen absorbing a woman's tired story about power, about who matters and who doesn't. Standing with Royal, it's obvious. She's been making men and making the world and then getting punished inside the very world she helped make. May I offer you another read? She gives me a small nod of assent, a conversation between equals. You walk through this dorm giving love to everyone, I tell her. That's the real work. Beating yourself up hasn't helped. You said it never stopped you after any arrest. It just took you away from your kids. What if you gave yourself the same love you give these women, the kind that makes them stronger? She stops mid-stride, considering the option. You're smart, she says, picking the pace back up, an extra glint in her knowing eye. We keep going, 90 minutes. She doesn't want to stop. By the end, she's agreed to drink 2 glasses of water a day, another huge step toward healthy. Royal tells me she's never done more than 17 laps. I finally have to laugh and say, we'll pick it up tomorrow because I'm the one who's tired. Real deal love finds itself in the most unlikely places. So that's Royal. That's the one you saw the video about. And she walks through the dorm and says, hey, baby, every morning. That's how she greets everybody. And so it's just this passing of love and this thing that she does and that she got to in this story. It gets to be told out to the world. She's not, and she's not hiding from anything she's done. She's like, I made this choice. I'm here. I made a choice. Might she make a different choice now? But we don't know. But she's also this other woman who's full of love and offering what she can to the woman that she's inside with. And that part we don't usually get to see. So, yeah. Anybody else? Any questions, reflections, thoughts? I think we're...
Are most of the women in that prison from New York? Are most of the women in that prison from New York?
I don't think so.
Versus
They are.
Nicole's from California, right?
It's a detention center, so it's actually a what do they call it? A waste. It's like a people. It's not like normally not a long-term facility. Some people wind up being there for a while, but it tends to be people passing through either on their way into the system or on their way out, or something else is going
sentencing.
on. Yeah, awaiting sentencing, you might be there, or you're going to get out soon, or you have to appear in court for a while, so you might be there, but it isn't really a long term. So people are from all over. Yeah, and they come and go quite rapidly. Sometimes they come in and then they leave. You might think you're leaving forever. You go to court, you wind up coming back. It's kind of a not stable.
Is there any discussion in her book about like keeping in touch after people leave? Like are there anything about like friendships that are made and what happens after some of the ladies leave that they've been with?
I mean, it was pretty early on. I don't know that much of it's in the book, but as you can see from the video we saw on Kariba, there's still some connection. I don't know how much. I don't know if they talk. I don't honestly know. I know that there's a story of one woman. She gets out and she called. I guess she went to court and they didn't know if she was going to go home or come back to MDC. And she does get to go home. And she called and there's a phone conversation with her as she's saying, "I get to go home. I'm not coming back." And so you see that conversation in the book. But
yeah, there's a couple of women who, were in there with her and then showed up at sentencing and just like, wanted to be there, wanted to support. And I think I don't know, but I do know that they are very supportive and received a lot from the connection inside.
It's all federal, right?
Yeah.
It's federal.
All
Yeah.
federal cases. So
It's all federal.
waiting sentencing in federal court.
Yeah.
anybody else? Any final thoughts, reflections?
We're stunned, speechless.
They said they're stunned and speechless.
All right. Well, I'll just say a couple things to wrap us up. If you don't have the book, you can buy it here this evening. If you're online, Leah posted where you can purchase it online. And then if you're interested in any more about, Nicole, this is very much about her time in prison. It was her first 6 months inside or inside of a detention center. And but she's written many other books, and so if you're curious about any of the other, in the book really shows what she practices and her philosophy on life, and you see that in action in the most intense situation you could probably be in. But if you're interested in other ways, so I mean, the thing that's really interesting is that, you know, we're all sitting here tonight. None of us are currently incarcerated, and that does not mean that we're not also in our own situation. We also get stuck. We also have these situations that we can't get out of in our lives, either circumstances around us or patterns in our minds or thoughts that we get stuck in. And so that's, you know, Nicole in the book is like, okay, I'm in the most intense pressure situation I could be in, and this is my opportunity to unwind these things, to get out of these places that I might be stuck. And but everything that she has written about before and the whole philosophy is about how you can do that anywhere, because we all, I don't know, at least I have things about myself, places I get stuck, those thought patterns, the anxiety, the, you know, pattern, the habits that I don't necessarily want to be stuck in. And so there's the Eros platform is a place you can go. You can learn more about the philosophy. You can check out her other books there or on soulmakerpress.com. And then if you're interested in some of her, The Prison Monastery is another book, which is her vision for turning prisons into monasteries. So if they were for penitence instead of punishment. I know you mentioned abolition, but not abolishing prisons. Like sometimes people do need to go outside of their life to have a different circumstance, to actually have change. But the way prison is set up, it's not really. It doesn't do that. You're just in an uncomfortable situation with a lot of pressures and not a lot of things that are going to teach you to do anything differently, to teach you about your own self. And so in this, she talks about a model that would actually have it be that you could, you know, first of all, detox from, a lot of people enter prison and they are on drugs and have regular access to it. So what if you had a period of time where you did not have access to drugs and you actually got proper medical care, and then you could do step by step the things you need to do to actually find freedom, to actually make use of your time inside of prison and then go back out in the world. So this is this book, and Unconditional Freedom is the nonprofit that you can look that up online as well, unconditionalfreedom.org. And do you want to say anything in closing?
Just thank you. Thank you for participating. Thanks for holding the space for us and showing up on a Saturday night before Easter Sunday, and sharing your thoughts and your questions, and just being open. I feel like there's great merit in being able to be in a room, whether you agree or disagree or however you see something, but be able to participate in a discussion about it. And I feel like the whole world benefits from little events like this, where we come together and we share and we, you know, explore topics that we have different opinions on together. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And if you have any more questions, we'll be here. You can ask us, and I hope you enjoy the book. Thanks everyone online too.
Thank you so much for showing up.